Cool. All right. So a lot of the material I'm going to cover today, I simply can't cover everything in a 45-minute session. So I've emailed the PDF booklet to Tony, and he said that he will be able to, if he hasn't already, get that to you. And then if there's any follow-up questions that you have, feel free to reach out to me. My contact info is on there. We also are recording this presentation so that you can look at this when you need to for reference. And then if you do have any questions as we're going along, if you want to type them in the chat, and then when we have time at the end, we can pick from those if I haven't already answered those questions. I think that's all I have for housekeeping stuff. Cool. So a little bit about me and my background. I used to be a band director. I was a band director for about 5 years, and about middle of to beginning of when COVID hit, I had started taking classes to learn how to do marketing online with Facebook paid advertising, Instagram ads, Google ads, YouTube, email marketing, building websites. And now I'm partnering up with a friend from Colorado, and we have a company called LaunchPoint. LaunchPoint is an app or full stack app development company where we can take essentially any creative idea that you have that you want to sell, but you want to put it in an application format, we can do that. So good examples would be, there's a great app called Rover for finding dog sitters around your area. You could think of any app that you've used. Like I ran a half marathon a couple of months ago. They have an app that someone built for them. So that's essentially what that company does. And my own company is Mac Designs. It started as just marketing, and now I've kind of started designing things, creating graphics, things like that. So I have all the social accounts that you can look me up on. YouTube, I have some videos on there as well. If you feel like listening to me talk for another however many hours, that's totally up to you. Hopefully I don't lose a lot of you on this presentation, but I'll try to keep it pretty engaging, and hopefully there's some stuff you can take away from it. If there are things you already know, cool, that's awesome. There might be some cool things that are different that you've never really thought about before, and it really help you stand out as far as your presence that you're creating for yourself as a realtor. And that's what this presentation is all about. So I'm going to cover basically 4 different platforms, not in total depth, but just to give you an idea of how to think of these platforms when it comes to your marketing. Facebook still has the most amount of users worldwide. It's a great tool for posting properties, posting several properties within X amount of mile radius that you want to use. Facebook also owns Instagram, so anytime that you're crossing your platform, you can do that. A lot of your posts that you put together, you'll be able to have them show up in Instagram. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do a lot of bulk posting, which will save you a ton of time. Things are getting automated to where you don't have to spend hours and hours a day on this stuff. YouTube, we're going to talk a little bit about YouTube and some ways to utilize it. I think of it as more of like a virtual filing cabinet. It's great for posting anything with knowledge that you have to share with people. It's great for showcasing walkthroughs if you want to, although the moment that you sell property, there's no point in having that up there anymore. But that's kind of where TikTok comes into play. TikTok is a great tool to use when it comes to walkthroughs that are virtual and reaching a different audience as well. It's also really good along with YouTube for building personality. Like if you want to have a channel that's maybe you talking about certain things that you feel really good about when it comes to real estate advice or working with your clients. And so we're going to dive into that. Finding your voice. This is a big thing. If you've never done any sort of social media posting, or if you have and you're just not finding yourself comfortable with it, I like to talk to my clients that I work with about having an idea of who they want to be from an outside perspective. When people are seeing your post, what sort of information are they wanting to gather? I break this down into 3 categories. I have a 4th one on there because it's kind of the X factor. But the 3 that I have listed are the most common that people use whenever they're posting on social media. So finding your voice, that means that, you know, you could maybe be, you think you're a comedian, right? You think you're funny. Most of your friends think you're funny. Maybe you're sharing relatable uh, posts that have something to do with humor, right? So anytime you're selling something or trying to drop information, it's always fun to heckle or joke around. There are some people that feel really comfortable with that, and that's a great way to have yourself stand out from all the noise when it comes to social media posting. The second personality would be the entertainer. This is a really good one for people that love to share feel-good stories. So maybe you are, you know, giving a great story about a client that you worked with, and talking about, you know, their goals that they had for purchasing a home and how you helped them, and talking about what that was like and what it meant to you, and really giving people that feel good feeling at the end. So entertainer is great. Also, if you have like great dog videos, that's a good one too. I know it seems kind of silly, but people love dogs, they love babies, anything that's entertaining that's going to get people's attention. Number three, the third personality would be an informer. So I think a good example of this is, I know Tony, for example, has posted a lot of walkthrough videos and tutorials on YouTube, and he's had people come to him from outside of his sphere of influence that have reached out to him, asking him to share videos that have a ton of great information with it. So an informer would be like an educator. It would be someone that is teaching you or sharing knowledge with you. This is a great way to, again, give advice, tell people what you know, and giving it in a way that is engaging, right? And that's the key thing. The fourth component is to choose your own. Some people like to do a combination of these. They like to rotate. Maybe they're running out of ideas, so they will do something funny for one day, and then a few days later they'll, you know, put together like a testimonial of an experience they had with a client. So finding your voice is really important, and also wanting to be comfortable with it, which brings me to a good point. Whenever you're posting stuff, the first time you start doing it, it's super awkward. It's really weird. Nobody's really going to pay attention, or it may not seem like people are going to pay attention. And that's true for anybody who does this stuff. And that's okay. The point is to put stuff out there and see what sticks. And we're going to talk about how things stick to social media and how the algorithms are set up so that you can get your information, your face in front of more people and not get stuck, because there are ways that these social platforms are wanting to get you essentially to pay to get in front of more people, right? So I am working through this for the past few years with different clients. We have noticed there has been a lot more posts that have been hidden as far as organic material that we post online, because the companies want you to pay money to reach your own followers, especially when you start to get to the thousands. Like say you start getting thousands of followers, then they see that as an opportunity for them to make money off of your marketing and people following you and your influence. But there are still some ways to get around that, and we'll talk about that shortly. All right, so this next part is all about setting up systems. One of the things that was really difficult with the social media platforms early on was when people posted, it was at that moment, it was what they were feeling at that time. We all remember, most of us do remember MySpace. We remember when Facebook was just starting up, and a lot of the stuff that you were posting was very elementary in terms of what all you could do with it. It was just an easy way for people to share their thoughts and feelings. And now it has changed to where you can schedule things ahead of time to where you don't necessarily need to check it or need to update it that very moment. So my recommendations for this are find platforms that you do feel comfortable with and go from there. So I've got in the left column here, we've got TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and just knowing what each of these platforms is used for is going to be super helpful in trying to set up a system. So a good way to do this is, you know, take a calendar, take one day out of your week, spend 2 hours if you can, and map out what you want to have posted on each of your platforms, and then have themes that you want to pick for each of those days, each of those weeks, and keep it really simple. And this kind of goes into the email marketing stuff as well. All right. So when we talk about email marketing and we talk about social media marketing, you want to have things that are lined up weeks in advance, but that doesn't mean you have to, do it every single day, but rather carve out a couple hours a week that you can just spend time and write everything out of what you want to do, how you want to map it out. And then you could actually use the platforms on the back end where you can set up a planner and you can schedule it ahead of time so that you don't have to go through each week or each day and try to post something to keep up with what's going on. It's also important to think about your audience on each of these platforms, right? So YouTube, I think, is more of an information center. It's more of people sharing their knowledge, sharing their personalities. Instagram is more of a visual component. It's something that people will stop and see. Maybe they'll shop a little bit. I think it's a great platform for showcasing individual properties. I've seen that a few times. And I say a few times, I mean a lot, where people will post a slideshow of a single property, different rooms. Really great way to visually capture your audience attention. When it comes to Facebook, Facebook is more of a way, in my opinion, to create your email list or create your lead list, right? Facebook is, again, still one of the largest platforms in terms of service for population. And it also serves multi-generation. It's multiple generations that are using Facebook still. Even younger students that like I was working with back when I was a high school band director, even though most of them use Instagram and TikTok, some of them are still on Facebook. So if you're starting to get into like those mid 20-year-olds that are working tech jobs, that are they've got money to spend, they can purchase a new home, that's Facebook is still a great platform for that. It's also great for 40 to 60-year-olds, which they may be downsizing, whatever it is that you're dealing with at the time. It's a great platform for that. TikTok is kind of the one that is the boogeyman. Some people don't like it because it's so different. It's a really cool way to showcase personality as well, and showcase like the virtual component of showing a home. When it comes to creating content, there's some free tools to use that I highly recommend, and they're going to be in the last slide as well as in the template that you have. I use Canva. I'm sure some of you have maybe heard of Canva. It's an excellent tool. I use it for building out all kinds of graphics, for creating videos. It's also super friendly as far as creating different dimensions and sizes for images. And all the photos that they have on there are, they have a ton of stock photos. If you need to use them, you can upload whatever photos you have. And it's got everything that you need. It's a really great platform. I use a paid subscription with that, and I don't really know what all is different between the free and the paid, but I'm sure there's probably a big difference between the two. I could tell you the photo quality tends to be a lot better if you do the paid subscription for that. And I want to say it's maybe like $150 for an annual subscription, which to me, it's already, it paid for itself with the number of advertisements I've had to build and use stuff from Canva. So that would be my recommendation. When it comes to creating video content or photos, everybody has one of these. They have a cell phone. Cell phones have such high quality cameras now to where it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like I have a Canon Rebel, like a really nice manual photo or camera, and I can name maybe a handful of times this past year that I actually used it. And a few of them were just major trips that were like bucket list trips that we wanted to take photos with. But your camera phone is going to capture high quality images. They're going to be just as good. That's an easy way to capture in the moment stuff. When it comes to creating content, you also have to think about how genuine you look, how authentic you are to your own self. When you're trying to present to someone, you're trying to showcase who you are as a realtor, like people hate being sold to. They just do not like being sold to. If you tell them a good story, if you talk about your personality, you talk about more of your personal connections, or maybe something funny or something that you want to share, that's the sort of content that I highly recommend creating, because that's what's going to capture people's attention. And that's the thing, we're trying to capture their attention first, trying to build that trust and build that relationship with people. I'm sure that's been talked about before. I'm sure Tony has talked about when you're trying to acquire leads, that process of gradually building that relationship with someone. It takes time. It's the same thing when you're creating content. If you're keeping a schedule of like sticking to your personality, you're sticking to your schedule of what you're posting, when you're posting it, give it time. That's what it's going to do. The earlier you start in on it, the better. Okay. I already covered this before we even started the slide, and that's to set up a schedule. So if you have not taken a look at the settings for, say, Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or even YouTube, go to your account, go to the settings in your account, and find where the manager system is for those platforms. Those management systems are your best friend. They have scheduling platforms built in so that you can go through, and it'll even tell you now, this is the optimal time for you to have this posted tomorrow, right? And it does that based on the number of users that have seen your photos or seen your images or whatever at that time. So good example I'll share with one of the clients I'm working with. We have all of these set up, and you're going to notice that they're all at 8 o'clock. They're all at 9 o'clock. This one's like 8:05 because I had to squeeze it together with another 8 o'clock. But Facebook has told me, hey, on Instagram and Facebook, like these are the optimal times for people that are following and looking at your stuff, right? And so we have it completely mapped out. What I did is I mapped out the entire month of April up until Friday the 22nd. And you can see that I've just taken everything that we need done. And I carved out a couple hours this past week to put all the content together, create the copy work, and set it all up to schedule. So that would be my recommendation for setting up your systems when it comes to posting. I'm gonna get back into this. All right, so maybe you don't have a large, yeah, what's up, Tony?
Sorry, Joseph, I was gonna jump in here. Quick question. That's only if you have business accounts on Facebook and on Instagram, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. Unless there's some feature that I'm not aware of, which could be, I don't know all the answers, but if you check your personal account, see if there is a way to schedule it, but you're right, you would be right in saying that. For sure, I know that the business platform, like if you have a business page, that is what is going to provide that for you. So you can have a planner.
Cool, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good, you're good. Okay, so maybe you haven't really done a lot when it comes to social media, and you are not quite sure like what the reception is going to be because you just don't have a lot of content. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to read a lot of self-help books. I like to read a lot about people that are working in the tech industry. And I just took this from one of my favorite authors, Tim Ferriss. And he talked about this idea with his friend and tech investor, Kevin Kelly, about creating your fans, like your influence, your sphere of influence. And he boiled it down to how important it is to think about yourself as only needing to know 1,000 people over the time of your business startup. So if you're a realtor and you are gradually building up that portfolio of people that you know, a good number would be 100. If you could get 100 people that know you, trust you, follow you, that's going to help create all of the influence that you need, because that circle will continue to grow. So Kevin Kelly basically says that, you know, your output should be 98% of your stuff is free and 2% of it should be ultra premium. And what I love about this is most of the times that I've been sold on something is whenever someone offers something for free. They give me something, they say, hey, here is a better way to help you prepare your coffee in the morning. Oh, cool. Like, let me check it out. And they're going to give me like 98% of everything that I should have. And then the one thing they're going to leave out is probably like the thermometer that's going to test the temperature of the water before I pour it into the coffee mix, right? That's like the one thing. So then they might tag, okay, great. If you want that thing, then you've got to tap here and then subscribe. And then we'll send you this, kettle with a thermometer on it for X amount of dollars. But because you're following Kevin Kelly and you're a listener and you're an avid reader, we're going to also give you 50% off of this thing and this thing, right? Okay, so how does that work with what we're doing in real estate? Everything that you're giving out should be free. Obviously, the big ticket item is the purchase of the home, right? So like whenever you're dealing with houses, you're dealing with ultra premium high ticket items. But all of the value that comes before that is advice, knowledge, everything that you can share up to a certain point. So I don't know real estate very well. I'm not a realtor, but I'm sure that you could go through and think of a list of all the stuff that you think is crucial information for your clients to know or for prospects to know. And think of, okay, what is all of the information and wisdom and knowledge that I know up until a certain point, right? And that is how much you give away whenever you have those conversations, because you're building trust with that person. And that also bleeds into how you're posting and what you're posting. So whenever I'm creating advertisements, I'm also thinking of that as well. What that might look like for selling properties would be, rather than focusing on a single property that I want to share with people, I'm going to give them and do all the homework. I'm going to give them X amount of homes, all starting from the low 350s with a pool, awesome patio, and a community golf course, right? If that was like my theme for the month, I would do all my research. I would create a URL tag from whatever your MLS system, and I would wrap everything up with photos and videos. I would list out all of these properties. I'd put it all together in a way to where when someone sees it, it's the easiest way for them to click on it. They see what they want, they're interested, and then you hit them with, hey, if you want to see more, sign up for my email list, right? So the whole point is to make it as convenient as possible. And you have to think of it like your clients or your prospects are toddlers when it comes to leading them to that position where you're going to acquire them and they're going to trust you and they're going to know exactly what to do. All right. So let's get into email marketing. I'm going to move this out of the way real quick. All right. So similar to the social media stuff that we were talking about with email marketing, having a strategy for each month can save you so much time, so much money, and so much energy. Most platforms that you use for email marketing, whether it's Klaviyo or MailChimp, or you're using Wix, or you're using KV Core, whatever it is that you have, there's most likely a scheduling system that you can use. All right, so create those in bulk. So set one day out of the month to where you can say, okay, these are the emails that I want to send out, and I want to send one out once a week, and that's it. Okay, set yourself a really simple, easy goal of let's just do one a week for now, and that's it. Okay, then from there, I would highly recommend using geo links, right? So whatever the area is that you cover and the properties that you have, you can very easily, and I'll show you this, I'm sure you've all done this before too, but give me a second. I'm going to take this, for example. Let's say I'm wanting to look at homes that are between 100,000 and 500,000 in this area. I'm looking for 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. I'm just making this up as I go. I search for it. Okay, boom, done. All right, so what I can do is I'm going to take this URL that I just created because I made this search, and I'm going to copy paste that, and I'm going to put it into my email campaign. I'm most likely going to put it into the form of an image. So if you're using an email campaign system, it more than likely gives you the opportunity to put in images and upload them. And you're able to then embed this URL into that image, right? And then just very clearly label underneath that image, tap here to see all homes that are in your area from the low 350s, right? So that way it's super simple for them to use. They click on it and it spits them out to this page here, okay? Now, why is this important? Well, if you have your website set up correctly, which I would need to talk to Tony about EXP and how that model's set up, but there are ways to where the websites can track all the data and information of where people are coming from, how many people click on it, and then we're looking at the analytics or the analytical side of where those people are coming from. That's super important because down the road, when you decide to and you're ready, if you want to run advertisements and share properties through any of these social media platforms, the likelihood of the person that just clicked on your email campaign to go look at these homes, the likelihood of them seeing an advertisement from you again are extremely high, right? And so that helps that conversion rate because you don't have to do any work at that point. It's them just being sent that same information over and over again, and it's got them in the pipeline for you. All right, so going back to our presentation here. As we continue on, those links are set up, put them in your email. And then I would also have different themes for the month, right? So if you're creating these email campaigns, start to think outside of the box of what you could do differently for each week. So a good way of doing this is maybe there's a local restaurant in the area. Go and check out the restaurant, take photos, meet the owner, talk to them about who you are, share information, build that trust, and then set up a review, put it together, and have that somewhere embedded in your email, right? So if you're sending out an email, 1 week, somebody's going to get that, and it's like, hey, you're helping someone out. It's local. It kind of gives back. It also gives a more personal touch to the person that's on your email list of, oh, hey, like they're a person too. This real estate agent is not just a robot. They're a real person and they're in our area. I like that. That makes me feel good about my connection with that person. The next week could be something with like a sporting event that you've been to. Your third week could be, the housing market update, right? That's kind of your generic one. That's the one that like maybe not everybody's quite interested, but it's still important to know and have those charts on there, those graphs talking about where the housing market is. And then, you could have like your property of the month is on there. And you should use all of that in conjunction with this overall theme for the month of we want to showcase X amount of homes from the low whatever to the, low 350s to 500s that have these sort of amenities, right? So using those in conjunction can be really helpful. One of the biggest things you could do too is check and see that if the email campaign has a recommended time that you schedule and send out the emails as well. That's also super important. It's just like with any social media posts, there's going to be optimal times that people are going to check their email. Like having an email go out on a Saturday afternoon is probably not the best plan, right? But maybe like a Monday afternoon or a Wednesday morning would be great. Fridays are hit or miss, but probably morning time. But your email campaign or whatever system you're using may have an option to where you can schedule it ahead, and it may be good enough to where it recognizes optimal times to send that. And then lastly, probably one of the biggest things is how do we get people to click on the actual email so that they can then, open it up and see what it's about. And so having a good subject line that is not necessarily clickbait, but gives the person reading a curiosity, a sense of wanting to open it is very helpful. So, creating something that says, like, I have an example here, like how this client saved X amount on closing costs using this method, right? So that to me would be enough to be like, okay, that's interesting. I'm curious, right? So creating it in a way where you're asking a question or sharing a method or giving out free information to where you can get people's attention with that. Okay. Just checking out the messages here in the chat. Okay, I think we're good. It says KV Core allows Facebook Pixel. Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the Facebook Pixel, and I think I have it in my resources, is a great way to track people that are coming from Facebook or Instagram. And it's just a line of code that gets embedded into the back of a website. It's very helpful for marketing. It's very helpful for running advertisements. Utilizing Canva, we already talked about this at the beginning, but some other ways that you can use it. If you have like your own business page set up on Facebook, creating a good cover photo is helpful. you can get the right dimensions using Canva, which actually has a feature that says cover photos for Facebook. And so you can have something put together there. You can also adjust logo sizes. I highly recommend that the photo that you have for your business page should be a photo or a headshot of you. Does not have the logo of the company, does not have EXP on there, but just your face, because the likelihood of someone stopping to read whatever it is you have to post is much higher, because they think that it's a friend and it's not a company, right? So they want to stop, they want to read. That's really helpful with how you go about presenting yourself with these posts that you're going to put together. It could also create YouTube thumbnail covers, which are really helpful. So if you decide you want to do a YouTube channel, they have that option on there as well. And then I talked a little bit about the way that you can easily make videos and stories to help you with posting. All right, now let's talk about like how to create these posts. Some good examples of what to do. And again, these are just some of the ways that you can do this, but I want to pinpoint why I choose to have these set up, and I'll kind of back it up with some data, and I can show you like why it has worked this way. So it's really easy to post things and put like, you know, your property of the week or whatever it is that you have, but there's a set of rules that you should keep in mind, and you want to make sure that you're leading people to clicking on that post and taking them to the place you want them to be, which is the endpoint, which is to either sign up for your email list or to get them to keep reading your newsletter so that they know who to trust when the time comes for them to sell or to buy. So these are a couple of ads. You can kind of see the progression here. My buddy Randy, he lives in Lubbock now, and he does commercial real estate. At the time that we were doing these advertisements, he was strictly doing residential. But I'm going to point out some things that we have here. The way that this ad is set up, I'm going to go with the center ad here. The first 3 lines are what I like to call the fold. And the fold is everything that you read before you have to click on this see more button. So some of the ways that you can set your posts up, and it doesn't have to be like these are advertisements, but this works for posts as well, is to, number one, know who your audience is and call them out. So in this case, he was living in South Texas at the time. So South Texas homeowners. And then the next thing was we were giving away some sort of information that might pique their interest, right? We're telling them what it is that they can get from us. And that is, we're going to see all homes from the low 350s. And then we also put in like their homes that have stunning pools and patios, right? So that was like our theme for that month. And then that's what we call the fold. And once they click on that see more button, you can look at this left-hand ad here to kind of give you an idea. Okay, cool. This is more detail. That way, if they're not already sold on like what it is they're going to click on, they open up the fold and they see that there's more information for this particular commercial property that they were trying to rent out. We gave them like, you know, what the monthly would be, all the information about the property up to a certain point. And then most importantly, before we're done with the ad, we give them a call to action, and that is that they should tap the learn more button to see and speak with the office. And it also has to make sure that like the learn more is correct with the button you choose here. These buttons will sometimes be different. You can change it to shop now, or you can change it to, call now. I like to say learn more because it's less of like a sales pitch. It's more of information, free information. If you want to learn more, you can click here, right? It's a little more enticing. It's not so intrusive. And then we have our headline for our copy, which is to see all homes from the 350s with a pool and blah, 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 blah. We would always rotate and change different things out to where it would pique someone's interest and they knew exactly what it was that they were looking for. Randy, going back to like our personalities we were talking about at the beginning and how you can present yourself online. Randy is a comedian. He's a really funny guy. And we did a great little video, and it was done with a camera phone. And this particular video was of his little dog, and they had a dog house next to it. And he did this whole little skit of like him helping his dog sell his dog house. And it had like a for sale sign out in the front of it. And then he was like talking back and forth with the dog. And it was really cute. And we ended up getting, see if I can pull it up here. not with that ad, but we did another one. With that ad, I think we ended up bringing in like 300 and something leads in about 2 months. And I want to say the cost was probably like between $5 to $7 a lead. But that was also at the time where I think it was August of 2020. And that was when the market was really starting to ramp up and we were just getting, leads like crazy. But we also had one last year in February where we did a different ad, and I can show you what that looks like with trying to run a single property. See if I can pull it up. So when it comes to single property listings, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just easier when you're trying to build and acquire leads to do a larger pool of properties. It would make more sense if you're obviously trying to sell a single property and get it off. But when we were in a buyer's market, we were running this ad that got 90 leads in about 2 months. And the way that we had this all set up, you'll see is a little very similar. We've got our fold here. We're calling out our audience. We're talking about a brand new listing. We're also talking about where it's located. And we were really focused on pitching this to people that were truck drivers because of the location between New Mexico and Lubbock. So we took some, pictures of the place, and then we had a good amount of information that was on each of these slides here. But the form, like the flow, the copy, everything is just about the same, but it's just a single property instead of multiple properties. All right, jump back in here. And I know we're getting close to time. I think I'm almost done here. So resources, a couple of things that you can check out. Canva, I said, is already free. Facebook Business Manager, if you do have a business page set up on Facebook, using that manager is going to be a great tool for you. This is more for you, like later on, it's in the template so that if you forget what it's called, you can come back and review. The one in the center is Zapier. This is a little bit more of an advanced software. I use it for clients that I'm running advertising for, but it's an automation service and it's fantastic. The way that Zapier works is it is the go-between for all things that you use online in terms of collecting data and collecting information. So we use Zapier from the front end, where when someone sees an ad, they click on it, they type their information in on a form, or if they type it in on your website, that information then gets spit to a spreadsheet because Zapier says, hey, I'm going to take all that information you just got from Facebook and I'm going to import it into a spreadsheet for you without you having to do anything. It's automated. And then from the spreadsheet, we had it zapped to where it would then go to our email marketing system so that the moment they opted in, we got their information into the Google spreadsheet. And then that email address got put into our email marketing campaign, which sent an automated message to that person so that everything was done automatically without us having to do anything. This is also really helpful for text messaging. If you want to use text message systems, you can do an automated service that way too. Again, it's a little bit more advanced. I believe you have to pay for it. I don't know if they have a free version. I'd have to check, or maybe they have like a certain amount you can do until you actually have to purchase it. But I found it to be super helpful for what I do. And it's a great way to link and automate everything together all in one place. This is just important links that are in the ebook that Tony's going to send to you. So we've covered the Business Manager, Canva, Zapier. One or two other things that we can talk about. If you ever want to spy on your competitors and see if they are running advertisements, this is a feature on Facebook. I don't think it's something that you can find on any other platforms, but it's still a really helpful tool, is to go to their business page and scroll down to where it says page transparency. And if you click on the see all button here, it's going to open up a library of advertisements that they are currently running. If they're not running any advertisements, it'll say no ads are found in this library. But let's do this real quick in real time. Tony, do you have anybody in the area that you know of that is a competitor? Could be
Yeah,
a big name.
yeah. Let's see, Dayton Schrader.
And oh, there he is. Okay. Is this him?
Yeah, that's him. I don't know if he
Okay.
has a Facebook business. That might just be his personal.
Yeah, this looks like a personal one.
Yeah.
Now he does have the
Kyle
Schrader
Handy
group.
is another guy, isn't he?
Yeah, Kyle Handy. The Schrader group is his group, but yeah,
We can check that out and see.
yeah, that's his business page.
So it'll tell you like this page is currently running ads. So if you go to the ad library, you can go here and you can see all the ads that they're running. This is a great tool. I use this all the time when I'm working with people to just tell them like, hey, here's what so-and-so is doing. Like if we're going to try to edge out or like this seems to be working, let's see what we can do if we try this instead. And so this is just a great way to do some research and kind of snoop around and see what's going on. And then it'll tell you more information about like how many times the ad has been updated or changed. You can go through and see that here. And one pop quiz thing, or not necessarily pop quiz, but interesting thing if you're not familiar with this, but the front end of Facebook is what I like to call blue Facebook. And a lot of people will say they're running advertisements, but they're really boosting posts. And boosting posts is still helpful, but it's very limited as far as what you can control when it comes to the price that you're paying for each person to click on your ads. It also is not that great when it comes to the timeliness of when you want an ad to stop. Whereas what the back end of Facebook is called gray Facebook, that gives you a lot more to play with in terms of starting and stopping ads whenever you want and changing the price point that you want to have. Also changing the area that you want to serve and you want to focus on. There's all these other metrics that you can do too, and you can have more control over where you want your advertisements to be placed in terms of Facebook, Instagram, and the affiliate partners on like blogs and stories, marketplace, things like that. So that's a good little tip to know about. Let me go back. I think that's it. And then when it comes to TikTok, if you are someone that does use TikTok, they are always running different challenges. As many of you may be aware, that's kind of what TikTok is known for, is when a trend happens, it starts getting thrown around and people start doing it in response. And so using different hashtags and learning about what is the trend for that week can be really helpful, to where when you do post something, you can use a hashtag for that challenge that week. And it's just going to help your stuff get shown with whatever the latest trends are, and just kind of give you some free advertising space, even though the trend may not have anything to do with what it is that you're posting. So TikTok advertisements are very different. It's still a big learning curve because the platform is always changing. And that's something to keep in mind with all of these platforms, is that technology is always changing. The rules are always changing. The policies are always changing. That's why it's really good to have someone like me who is always like working to figure out like what the changes are, and ultimately helping you out and getting more leads that you need, and helping your stuff stand out when it comes to the content that you're producing and what you're posting. So at this point, I'm pretty much done. I think, look at that, only a couple minutes over. If you want to reach out to me, this is in the template too, or, you can chat with Tony and he can send you my information. Yeah, so there's a ton to cover in a short amount of time. And that kind of just, that's the tip of the iceberg as far as what all you can do with this stuff. Like I haven't even gotten into Google ads or YouTube ads, any of that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to plug you again to everybody. If you are interested in stuff like this or learning more, definitely reach out to Joseph here, as he is a wealth of knowledge there. So I had a quick question about posts, just a normal post. All right, no ads. I get stuck in this space of, okay, I'm posting once a day in the morning. I have like a kind of a routine of what I do and post. how often should we post? I almost feel uncomfortable posting more than one time, but I'm also going, the people that are making it big on social media just post all the time.
Yeah.
What would you recommend as far as that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with posting all the time, but if you're uncomfortable with it, my recommendation would be to do once in the morning and once at night. Um, Thinking of the time when people are most likely to, get their routine started for the day, part of that routine is most likely looking at their phone to see if there's any new messages that they have. And then evening time when they're winding down, watching Downton Abbey, or they're watching something on Prime. I have no idea what they're doing, but they're more likely on their phone scrolling around, right? So that's a good way to work with that. I would also recommend too, if with your personal post, if you can, and this is really easy to do, taking a URL of the property and embedding it into the post as well, and it should set it up as a link. So what I mean by that, and maybe you already know this, but whenever you create, like, let's say a regular post on, I'll just use mine, I think, for time's sake. Let's say I want to put something in here and I want to embed this URL that I found. What you'll want to do is you want to make sure that you also include the HTTPS here just before the World Wide Web search. And if you do that and you take the entire link like that, it should set it up for you as a hyperlink to where it will showcase everything on there. So people can just click on it. Because sometimes what will happen is people will type in a website and they just put it in as www and it's in the post, but it won't show up as a hyperlink once they post it. So you can't actually click on it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I would recommend that. So like if you're not in the space where you're running advertisements for yourself, but you want to do personal posts, I would still recommend that same strategy. Finding, properties within X amount of mile radius with these specs, and then creating that and dumping it into your post each day.
Cool. Colin, I mentioned something and maybe y'all can tag team this. So I asked Brad, like inside KB Core in my website, there's already links built in of like search for homes and search for the value of your home, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what if I wanted to create some other form and put that on my website, and then put that in my email to click here to go to my website to go see this specifically? Is there a way to do that? I'm sure there's a way to do that. What's an easy way to do that?
There should be. See,
are you familiar
Colin,
with it?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So, gosh, it's been a while since I've touched that, but there is a way to create newsletters and other stuff on the KV Core website. There is a way to do that. I haven't touched it in quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'll look into it, but there is a way to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I used KV Core. I think a year and a half ago, I was working with some realtors and they were using it, but I know there is a way to do that. And there's also some other cool features that they have in there too. But the geotagging is still an easy way. Like if you want to send them to a specific property, you can still do that. Or say there's a form, like you said, that you want to create. Of course, that's been like a year and a half. I don't know what updates they've made, but I would imagine that they've figured out what we're all talking about now. And that's like, hey, we could also do these things and put it into our system. So I'm sure it's there.
Can y'all explain the Facebook pixel thing that you said is within KV Core?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got, let me pull one up quick. So let's say, what's a good example? Let's go to Rover U. Let's see. That's not a website anymore. It was somebody I was working with. Let's go to this. Okay. All right. So up here in the top right corner in the notification bars, I have what's called a Facebook Pixel Helper. And it's something that I have installed in Google Chrome. And this basically tells me, hey, anytime you go to a site that the site has or does not have a Facebook pixel on it. Okay. Facebook basically designed a line of code, and that line of code is put into the back end of a website. Okay. And that line of code is basically like a little receiver. And what it does is it'll say, hey, when someone comes to your site, we can track where they just came, where they just came from. And then not only that, we can also track what buttons they're pressing on when they get to the site. We can also track when they add stuff to their cart for purchasing like e-commerce products. They can track like when they've filled out a form. So there's all these different things that you can track. And so whenever you're dealing with like if KV Core, which I believe KV Core does already have one, that information gets spit back to Facebook and Instagram and all of their affiliate partners. So maybe if there's a blogger that's, you know, they have paid advertising space on their blog, well, that information will help in finding the right customer for you when you're running advertisements. So if I were to go back on Facebook now, after having just come to this website, I might get hit with an advertisement from this company or from this website. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's basically how that Facebook pixel is designed. And if I were to click on, like, say, a button, you can see here in the Facebook pixel helper, it's lit up and it's blue, and then there's a green 2 on there. If I click on this button, let's see what happens. Okay, so it kind of went through and like refreshed it, and it showed like 1, and then it showed a 2 on there. Okay, so then it was just telling me like page view. Someone just came to your page, and this is how long it took to get to this page. It doesn't seem like much here, but like if I were to maybe make a purchase, let me try. This is like a protein powder company that I'll purchase from, and I know they have one for sure, or at least I thought they did. Okay, I'm a liar. Anyways, if I were to like click on stuff, like type in my email, the numbers would change on that little box, and then it would tell me like specifically, oh, they just put their email information in. So it's tracking that essentially.
Cool. Well, does anybody else have any questions for Joseph before we wrap up? Cool. Well, hey, man, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing all this information. I'm going to share it into the group. Got this recording here, and then and I'll share it with you as well and put up on the YouTube channels and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'll let, hopefully we get some people reaching out to you and at least educating some people on the powers of this stuff. Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and hopefully we can do this again soon and get some more people in here. And obviously I hope it was helpful. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose with some of this stuff, but that's what you got the ebook for. So you can browse through it and just check it out when you need to.